Welcome to In the Green Room. I'm Kinga.
And I'm Chet.
And this is Martin. Welcome. We have a friend of the show, Richard Betts, in the house.
Hello.
Fellow wine enthusiast.
And fellow wine enthusiast. And Richard, please introduce us, this amazing guest that you have introduced us to.
This is the grande dame of food and wine writing here in Phoenix, in Arizona, actually. Christina, the one and only Christina Barrueta.
Cheers to Christina.
Cheers to Christina.
Finally on the
I
show
like
in the
that
Green Room.
start.
Finally,
Thank
yes.
you.
And this
actually, the
crazy
funny
color. Look at this, everybody. That we're drinking and you're not.
I have a funny story for why we got started late.
Yes.
So, as everybody knows, I'm very dedicated to like no days off from working out. And so, once I realized we were drinking on the show today, I was like, well, I need to drop my car off. I can't drive. I'm going to have to Uber. And so I went to drop my car off. And the first Uber I ordered, it said it was 16 minutes away. And I was like, oh, that's perfect. I can run 2 miles in 12 minutes. And then I can rinse off really fast. And I'll be ready by the time the Uber gets back. And so the Uber called me after like 9 minutes when I was like about a mile out. And he's like, I'm about to pick you up, but it shows you're like at the top of the mountain now. I was like, oh yeah, don't worry, I'll be there. And then he just hung up and canceled on me. So then I had to order another whole Uber.
That's funny.
But long story short, I got my run in, I got my workout in, and I ran really far, really fast. So I earned this wine. Yeah.
All right, and
So
My apologies that we got started late.
Them, Christina, what is we're drinking? This is not a wine. It's not a beer. It's kind of a hybrid, isn't it?
Yes, it's a collaboration with AZ Wilderness
Okay.
and grapes grown in Cottonwood, I believe.
Okay, but first
Villa
we need to
Verde.
hear who you are.
Oh.
You're the famous.
Well, wait, she's mid-description.
Grand
Let her finish
Okay,
the
okay.
description first.
And I have to thank Jim Cunningham of, I
Of
think
our
you all know
friend
him,
from
of
Merkin. Yeah,
Merkin,
he's
who
been on the
show,
introduced me
friend of
to
the
this.
show.
So
He's
it's
amazing.
a collaboration with AZ Wilderness. It's a sour fruited ale, and the grapes used are Tannat and Cabernet. And I
Wow.
think it's delicious.
I
Yeah.
love
What do
it.
you think?
I love
It's
it.
really good.
I think it's a good
fruity
starter for this.
tasty.
Yeah.
And I'm
Very
trying to lose
tart,
weight, so
but
something
it
that's
is
not
This
too
is
sweet.
this is
It's
beer
healthier.
and
Yes,
wine,
right.
Right?
Right.
both
It is.
fermented and combined.
Interesting.
That's
And
hybrid.
sours are either, I think most people have a love-hate. Either hate
Yeah,
them or
well,
love
they're
them.
sour,
There's not
you
a
know.
lot of middle people when it
But
comes
the
to
sours usually have some kind of fruit in them, if I'm not mistaken.
But once again, if you're trying to, have a girlish figure, less sugar is better.
Right.
And this
right,
does not have a lot of sugar.
Right.
So,
No, it doesn't.
And it's
so
a
I
good
love it.
palate
It's very dry,
opener.
like a dry
Mhm.
wine. Yeah, palate opener, because it has it's slightly fizzy.
Yeah. I think they call it Villa Verde Rosé.
I
I
love it.
love it.
Oh, so-
Villa
So
Verde
tell us
about your
Rosé.
Thank you, Jim Cunningham and Merkin.
So,
Well, my main aim is to kind of support the industry here. And I always tell people, I would have nothing to write if we didn't have amazing, chefs, restaurateurs, farmers, ranchers, winemakers, distillers. I mean, you name it. I think a lot of people don't realize how much we have here in Arizona. So when I first moved here in 2008,
From where?
Boston.
Boston, okay.
Yeah, I lived in downtown Boston before I moved here.
So that's definitely a very different food scene than
Yes,
Yes.
much more walkable.
much more walk.
I miss
yeah.
being able to
Yeah,
walk.
yeah.
We could walk to Chinatown, to the north end, which is our little Italy. But
Oh yeah.
The Freedom Trail,
My
is it?
wife and I
Yes.
were
Yes.
just
Yeah.
in Vancouver. Same thing. You can walk in so many of Chinatowns just a little ways away. The sea is just a little ways away.
Right,
It's amazing
exactly.
the difference of to be in a walkable town where you can hit 20 restaurants in a mile. Where in Arizona, that's
and I think that's why, especially when I first moved here, that it seemed like there were so many chains, because you can't just
That's
walk by
right.
a restaurant and
That's
check it
right.
out.
right.
And most people, if they're going to pile the kids in the car or get in the car, they want to go to someplace familiar. But I think
And
it's
preferably
changing.
with chicken nuggets.
Yes, right. Something that they know.
Yeah.
But I think
Well, there
over
are
the
so many
years-
great local restaurants. I just ate at Beckett's Table. In fact, I did a
Yep.
post today.
Shout out to
Beckett's
Justin
Table.
Beckett
Yes.
and actually the whole team over there.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's one of the best restaurants in Arizona.
It's one of my favorites. They're in
Yes.
the cookbook.
Oh,
Actually.
are they?
Yeah.
Well, that's right. The cookbook right
Here
here.
we go.
Phoenix.
What's it called?
Phoenix Cooks.
I actually
Phoenix
think
Cooks.
Arizona's fine dining like flies under the radar, but
Mm-hmm.
we're so lucky about it because
Yes.
a lot of other
Well-
cities that have this fine restaurants, you have to wait for like a week or two to get into any of the spots.
And some of them here too now.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
here
Not
it's
me, I
still
get
way
it.
more accessible than like if
Right,
you're comparing to
right.
like LA or
Well,
New York,
I've
the
been
other
here
really big metropolis.
almost 30 years. I've been here since '94, and the evolution culturally has been just stunning. I mean, really dramatic, and it's quite dynamic. That includes restaurants and the wine scene. And you've been here since 2008,
Yep.
and even since then,
Yep.
we've
I've
seen
seen huge
tremendous
Oh,
growth
huge
here.
change.
So now we're getting more international recognition too, national and international.
and I
I'm
think the
hoping
crowd
only
is more
Arizona. Oh,
educated.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I hope only Arizonans hear this part of the show, so there's not more people flooding here.
Right. We want to be able to get into our restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that old bumper sticker. Welcome to Arizona. Now go home.
Yeah. Literally.
That's a good one. Well, Richard, you're the wine expert. How do you make a sour wine?
I have no idea.
Yeah. What?
Oh, I thought you would know.
This is a beer and a wine combined.
Okay.
Okay, so you make this with hops and everything. You ferment a beer and you ferment the wine separately, I assume, and mix them together.
So you do know.
I don't know much about it. Well, that's the basics.
But true intelligence is admitting when you aren't sure about something.
Yeah,
So
that's the
right.
basics.
Oh, that is right.
You
Thank
know.
you.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the first time I'd known about sours, and I know that sours are usually fruited, so they'll have some kind of fruit in them as well as the hops and barley.
Like
and all that
Helton has a
stuff.
great boysenberry sour.
Yeah,
that I
those are
love.
great.
Ooh.
I've
See,
never
so
been to
we're giving honest reviews. I think it tastes very good. Like the first few sips are good,
Mhm.
but I don't think it has a very high drinkability to it. Like I wouldn't.
Is it your first sour too?
I think so. Yeah. Like I wouldn't pour a second glass of this.
Right.
Like, but I'm
Well,
glad I tried it at the same
Yeah, but
time.
if you had this with food, that might change your
Mhm.
experience for sure.
What do you think would go well with this?
Fish and chips.
Oh, actually, I agree. That would be really
I
good.
actually think like a teriyaki salmon or
Sure.
teriyaki sesame
Yeah, yeah.
salmon that's a little bit sweet to counteract the sour would be
Absolutely.
really good with
You're
this.
right.
I
You're
would
spot on.
taste scallops and bok choy with this, and a little bit of garlic.
Okay.
Well,
there
I
you
would
go.
have that with anything.
I like
Yeah.
that. I think anything you would squeeze a little lemon over, I think it would be.
I said that for
really
Chet
good.
because when I say something totally off the cuff, it's bizarre, and I get a rise.
He
out of
rolls his
Chet.
eyes and.
Cheers. So excited to have you here, Christina. So, Christina, how did you get so lucky to get into this business? I mean, for you to be, everywhere, ubiquitous, tasting wine and enjoying all these beautiful restaurants, and people are inviting you here and there. You're a big wig.
Well,
How did this happen?
the timing, I just was so fortunate because when I moved here,
Mhm.
the first, I think it was a month, I had read in the paper about a locavore dinner at James Porter's restaurant.
Oh,
If anybody remembers Topino.
yes.
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 So
Yes.
where he would have winemakers
Yes.
and ranchers, people in the
Yep.
industry, and they would sit at your table so you would get to know them, and the whole menu would be locally sourced. And my husband's son's business partner at the time, they were selling wine in Arizona, wine country,
Mhm.
and they had started a pamphlet,
Hmm.
but they were expanding it to to a magazine. And they had read some of the things I'd written back in Boston, like on food boards and that
Sure.
kind of thing. So they said, hey, do you want to do the restaurant part? So,
How
I mean, you
exciting.
can't get more
Yeah.
to fall into
Ah.
something like that. So Ronnie and
Wonderful.
Josh
Yeah.
Moffat really
Mhm.
kind of gave
Well,
me my
did you have
kickstart.
How
any
exciting.
experience or any kind of this kind of experience back in Boston?
I had written for like a digital online
Okay.
magazine, but this was back in the 90s,
Yeah,
so it was
yeah.
mainly a nerdy food board
Okay.
called Chowhound that we prided ourselves on being nerds and seeking out,
Yeah. Cool.
the less than mainstream
Yeah.
things, and doing the same thing I'm doing now, supporting bartenders and restaurants.
Yes.
And how do you
Very
stay so
much so.
skinny? Because
Oh my
all that
goodness.
eating and drinking
I
and
think I've
you
gained
look
30
great.
pounds since
Ah,
I moved here, and I'm not
absolutely.
exaggerating.
No, you look amazing.
As I drink more wine.
But this is interesting, Christina, because this is something you have a passion for personally. But in addition, your passion is sharing this information
Right.
with the greater public,
Well, and that's what's
which is
funny.
so important.
It's so
It's
important.
such an important role.
Mhm.
Exactly. I mean, we really look up to you. I'm a foodie. I love food. I love wine.
And we have a
what
lot of
you're-
it.
Yes, and what you're doing
Okay.
is so amazing.
I want to ask you a question, just off the hip answer. What would be like your top 3 favorite Arizona wineries, like winemakers?
Oh, I love that. That's a good one.
Well, I brought one, Cove Mesa. Top
Okay.
3,
Cove
it's tough.
Mesa.
It is tough.
I haven't tried a lot of this year's vintages of other wines.
Well, Sam Pillsbury is one of my favorites.
Yes, and you had Sam on last
Yes,
week. I almost
we adore
brought
him.
Sam's.
I was trying
I
to
have
let
his
her give a
petite Syrah.
non-biased answer though.
Plug, Sam Pillsbury.
Oh, it's really nice. I can't pick 3. I'm gonna say 3 that I've recently had. Callaghan. You know, obviously
Okay.
a lot of us know him as.
I guess I'm saying
Grandfather
that
from
the 3 you
Montana.
would recommend our listeners try, like where you're like, okay, this
Oh,
person has
boy.
just
Yeah,
a
most
great
accessible.
reputation.
You're on death row
Okay,
and you
most
get your last meal.
accessible, so they're easy to find at a grocery store.
There we go. Perfect.
Okay, there you go.
Most accessible.
Callaghan.
Okay.
Oh man.
But also quality, not just only
Rune wine.
accessible.
Yeah,
I
fair.
really love the Rune wines. Also.
Rune?
Rune,
Okay.
okay.
Yes.
And those are down south.
Yes.
So that's
That's
and
2.
Cove Mesa. Well, Cove Mesa, I don't know if you can buy outside the tasting room yet.
And Sam Pillsbury.
Yep, I love Pillsbury. I love Dos Cabezas.
Those are available.
I
Dos
love
Cabezas
Four
is
Tails
available, yeah.
Vineyard. I
We've
love
had Merkin on the show
the
before.
point is
yeah,
there's
I
a
love
lot of
Caduceus and Merkin. I have
exceptional wines.
I love their canned
Mhm.
stuff too. Have you tried any of their cans?
Yes, it's
Yes.
delicious.
Yeah, their mead. It's crazy
They've
delicious.
hosted us at the restaurant
Yeah.
a few times. It was.
I love their mead. I love their sparkling. They have a sparkling red that's
Mhm.
really delicious.
Wonderful.
I mean, there's just so many. And then up north, you know, Page Springs, AC Stronghold. I like LDV. I love Carlson Creek.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
All
Carlson
of the
Creek. We
above.
we
love
have a
Carlson
lot.
Creek.
Yeah.
Um,
Vino Stash is one of the newer
Vino
ones
Stash
I
is
really
one of
like.
my favorite of the newer ones.
hmm
What about Chateau?
Oh, and Los
Tumbleweed?
Millich.
Oh
I love
yeah,
Chateau
Tumbleweed.
Tumbleweed.
We love
and
Chateau
Los
Tumbleweed.
Millich is-
Yeah.
Jeff Hendricks.
Yeah.
He's been on the show before.
We're gonna have
Yeah.
to make like a official list of all these so people can click on them and then they can,
Good idea.
explore a little bit.
Actually, that's a really good idea because there
Yes.
are so many exceptional wines, and I would say probably really just within the last 10 or 15 years, this has just come out of
Yeah.
literally nowhere. I mean,
Well,
20 years ago, we didn't even have a wine
Well, you know, I think
industry.
people were still experimenting, and I've talked with
Mhm.
people, you know, at actually Justin Beckett,
Mhm.
Psalms there, and I agree with them where every year Arizona takes a big leap because we're still in the
Mhm.
experimental stage.
Mhm.
So every year people share their knowledge of what works and what doesn't.
Right.
You know, in the beginning it was let's plant the same grapes as California,
And
which doesn't work here because
Mhm.
we're more Mediterranean,
even
terrain.
Spanish.
Well,
Spanish,
Mhm.
Italian
well,
varietals.
yes, but Dr. Dutt, you know, Dutt,
Mhm.
who was the soil scientist who really started.
Yeah, I almost brought
the
a bottle of
industry.
Sonoda Vineyards.
You know, when he started planting vineyards
I've never tried that one.
in Sonoda in the
They have a
mid
lot.
'70s, he had spent a lot of time in France
Mhm.
too, so he was interested in.
Mhm.
Of course, the California varieties are the French
Right,
varieties.
right.
Yeah.
But he
Mhm.
he thought the soil was similar to
Yeah.
regions in Bordeaux, I
Yeah,
think.
Mhm.
exactly.
The terroir.
And he's
Yeah.
considered the grandfather of
Yeah.
Arizona
Arizona
wine.
wines.
Yeah, our
Yeah,
modern
of the
day. He's the
contemporary
one.
And repeat his
industry,
name
yeah.
again.
Dr. Gordon Dutt,
He was
How do
a
you spell the
soil
last name?
scientist.
soil scientist.
D-U-T-T.
at the-
D-U-T-T. I've
He,
never.
And he just passed away
He
last
did
year.
last
Oh,
year, yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But,
He
R.I.P.
was the guy.
Yes.
Yeah, but I was able for my wine book to go over to his house one day and spend an afternoon
That's so
interviewing
cool.
him, so to
Yeah.
hear his stories
Yeah.
and you know, I could have listened to him all day. And now his granddaughter continues the winemaking legacy, so she makes all the wine at
Really?
Very cool.
Sonoda Vineyards.
We'll have
Sonoda
to.
was
We'll have
the-
to get her on with you. in the
Yeah,
future.
she's great.
Yeah, we'd
Sonoda
love
was
to
the
do that.
first vineyard to be, you know.
How old is she?
I don't know. But they-
Granddaughter. Is she in her 20s?
No, 30s, I think.
Probably.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I'm really excited to try this Cove Mesa.
Okay,
now
so
you
let's
said
do
it's
the
one
next
of your favorites in
Yes.
the state.
Yeah.
So let's get your little breakdown on this bottle.
So this is Picpoul Blanc, and it actually means
What is Picpoul?
lip stinger. It's a grape. It's a type of grape.
I knew that, but I don't think Chet knew that. And
Oh,
I know that
yeah.
because my friend Lynn O'Keefe loves Picpoul.
Yeah.
That's how I knew it is.
Yeah.
Pass that over to you.
And we were talking earlier, Richard and I, how we're starting to see more and more Picpoul.
Ooh, I love it. It's so light.
And this is a
airy,
grape
I think
from,
it's a
crisp.
from
great
southern France.
Um,
originally.
Arizona wine.
I
It's
love
very
it.
popular in France.
wow.
Oh wow, that's
I was going to take
fantastic.
a picture of the bottle. Too.
And they
Yeah,
actually have
that's
two, one's from Rumline, and I think the other one's from, I think it's Yavapai.
Oh, okay.
But they have two, and I love
Yeah.
both. They're different. Actually, Cove Mesa I have so much wine at home because I write about wine all
Right.
over the
Everybody
country,
sends it to you.
and I get a lot sent.
See?
But Cove Mesa is the only one I'm a member of.
Really
Yeah.
interesting. So
Oh, that's
I
good.
love hearing the
So
description
good.
and the adjectives. I'm really all into it. I know.
So
Richard
what do
kinda
you
laughed at me.
taste in that?
So I want to hear from you first. Or should I say?
I have to
should I say
finish
what I
mine.
taste first?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Let me see what I taste. Okay.
Too, if you want to use it.
I have to send that back over.
I taste vanilla.
Little rinse first.
I taste citrus. Martin,
A lot
what
of
are you tasting?
citrus.
Yeah,
Lot of
definitely
citrus.
get a lot
Citrus.
of grapefruit, more of the sour,
Grapefruit,
more
definitely
of the sour
grapefruit.
citrus.
Yeah.
Although there could have been the stuff before.
But the whole thing about
Vanilla, citrus,
the whole thing about
grapefruit.
Pitbull is the
White
they
flour.
call it a lip stinger
Totally.
because of the acidity.
Mm-hmm.
It's a high acid wine,
I love it.
which is why they use it a lot for blending in France.
Interesting.
And it's great with food, of course. Anything that's.
What does it say on the
high
bottle? Is there a description on the bottle?
There should
Well, let's
be.
keep giving our
Okay.
descriptions. Then,
Before we reveal.
yeah,
That's
I
right.
don't want to cheat on the test.
I taste a little honeysuckle.
Yeah, I definitely get a little
Yeah,
honeysuckle.
Yeah,
it has it
little-
on the
little,
nose
yeah,
too.
on the
Right?
nose, yeah.
Say
Totally.
like a little bit of pineapple because
Yes.
sourness.
That was my next one. Pineapple. Mm-hmm. Let's see.
But it just makes your taste buds tingle.
A little bit of lemon verbena.
Oh.
That's
No?
for Jet.
Oh. He's a big fan. He grows it in his backyard.
I don't understand that reference
It
at
was a
all.
joke. When I say
Right.
something very out there, you kind of you're like.
So you were supposed to roll your eyes, is what
and
she's
make fun of me,
saying.
but you didn't. It didn't work.
Well, if you do it on purpose.
I
I
mean,
nobody naturally happen.
Yeah, nobody takes wine description that literally.
I mean, I actually do taste it. Do you taste it?
I all those kind of lemony herbs, I feel
Yes.
like
Yeah.
come up because there's a
Yeah.
little savoriness to it too. At the same time, it's not all just.
Very-
And a little bit of
Yeah.
cilantro.
There you
It's
go,
a beautiful
herbal. That's the
wine.
herbal
Yeah.
component.
I
There's
taste
a little
cilantro
bit
for
of-
sure.
Yeah, so it's that citrus, herbal, mineral too.
hmm It's
Delicious.
very balanced. I think it's very
Yes,
elegant for.
What would you
Yeah,
pair it
such
with?
a-
It would go really well with like bruschetta, like something like bread.
Oh yes.
Anything that needs a squeeze of lemon,
Yeah.
I would
Exactly.
pair that with because it has that kind of brightness.
I see it with salmon.
Oh,
Perfect.
absolutely.
Definitely salmon.
Any kind of fat, because that high acid.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll
Any
cut through
type
the
of,
richness
yeah,
of that
the
kind of
pork
thing.
chops even. I think this would be really amazing.
I think it's very versatile.
Mhm.
With
like you
anything.
said. Mhm.
So what restaurants can we go to and be served this wine?
Well, you were talking about Beckett's Table.
I love Beckett's Table.
And their sister restaurant,
Yeah.
Southern Rail, have a huge selection.
There's
of-
only a
Arizona
handful
wine.
of restaurants.
And on Sundays, they're half price.
Yeah,
Half off.
and Sundays,
Sundays.
and Mondays, I
Yay.
think at Becca's Table, it's Sunday and Monday, it used to be.
Yeah.
And I think Beckett's
Pleasant
Table
Rail is only Sunday.
has the best dessert on the planet. Like
Oh,
I
the
can't
toffee.
even make
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
both
no.
of them.
Oh.
The pecan.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
one
I've
of
always
fig-
wanted
the
to make
fig
the
pecan.
pecan
The
one.
pecan one is so delicious.
He
on
has
the-
that recipe,
Mhm.
and there's a book
Yeah.
that was put out for the anniversary of Arizona, and he actually has the recipe for that pie in there. So
Does
I've
he?
always wanted to try it.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. And then there's a cherry apple tart with vanilla ice cream.
Mhm.
It's
And
very good.
You're making me hungry.
you know what? It's so good.
Let's,
And then
let's order in right
Yeah,
now.
and then they have the best grilled cheese sandwich.
hmm
I don't know what is
It's
that
hard
bread?
not to order that.
God, it's so good.
Yeah, it's really
It's
good.
unreal good. Like I mean, I want to go there. They're not open tonight, but I want to go tonight.
That's right. Oh yeah, they're closed. on
They're
Monday.
closed
Yeah.
on Mondays and Tuesdays.
You know,
So
for
or-
as
is it Mondays and
light
Tuesdays? Or
as
just,
this is, there's a lot of
Monday and
flavor.
Tuesdays.
Oh, yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
that's right.
Because
Oh,
they
no,
used to
it's-
do half
it's
price
like
bottles
the
on
acid
Monday.
just keeps-
but they're
Yeah,
closed.
closed
Whoa.
Mondays and
Keeps your
Tuesdays.
taste
Gives
buds
you,
Go to
fine.
Beckett's
gives you
Table.
Caesars.
You're fine.
But there's really only 3 restaurants in town that I know of that have an extensive list of Arizona wines. And one is Beckett's Table, and their
Mhm.
sister restaurant Southern Rail, and the other one is F&B.
Mm.
Love
These
it.
people took very early on took stand to
Mhm.
support Arizona wine
Mhm.
because they recognized
The talent
the
and delicious.
potential
Mhm.
for it and how good it was, and they're the restaurants that and in the case of Pavle F&B, when he, and this is what 9-10 years ago, when he opened F&B. It's more than 10 now, I think, or something.
Yeah, I can't.
You know, he took a stand, and his original wine list was all Arizona wines.
Mhm.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
This is a
Com-
guy
and
who
he
has
was the first
experience with
person to
world
do it.
wines all over the world. Not, but 2 or 3 weeks later, there's a full-page story in the New York Times Wednesday food section about this.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow. Wow.
So-
And now he's a winemaker.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Really?
And he has one of the most
Yeah.
stunning tasting
Oh my
rooms
God.
and vineyard. In fact, it's in that current issue
Yeah.
of Somm Journal
Yeah.
Mhm.
or Tasting Panel. I
It's,
forget which
it's
one.
amazing.
So what is your? You were the editor of the Somm Journal.
Contributing editor.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. That's
But I
exciting.
have a column in
Can I
Somm
hold it
Journal
up?
every
Yeah.
month called.
Where's the Somm Journal?
Oh, it's under.
There we go. Let's hold it up for the camera. We can hand it to. Yeah. There we go.
So I have a column called
Oh,
The Sonoran Scoop where I write about
Yeah.
different things. I think in that one I
How
wrote
did you
about
get?
a restaurant
How
in
did that happen?
Sedona.
How did you get so lucky?
I was contacted by them actually, which was really nice because their managing editor is somebody I knew back in Boston.
Oh wow.
And as I was talking about that food board, she's a writer and she actually did a story on some of us.
Wow.
So it's funny how full circle, and now I work for her, and
This
she's
is
a
Meredith?
great
That's
editor.
incredible.
This is Ruth.
Oh, Ruth, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Meredith,
So Ruth recommended me to Meredith,
Yes.
and then Meredith and I have become great
And
friends
Meredith
since
May
then.
is the publisher, editor-in-chief, and she lives
And
now
she
in
owns
the Valley.
Tasting Panel and
And can we hold that one up too? Tasting.
Yeah.
Taste of Arizona tasting panel.
So these are national publications. Okay.
yeah, I think
Okay.
Tasting Panel is the largest industry,
Yeah.
or is it Somm Journal?
I don't
The
know which one is
tasting
larger,
panel.
but
Yeah.
they're
And
both-
how do we how can we find these magazines? Do we have to order them online?
You have
or-
to a subscription, or like if you're in the wine industry, it's free.
Okay. All right. So
Um,
do you get all these copies? Okay. So
And
bring it on the
Meredith
hex.
just moved here. yeah.
Well, cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah,
Cheers.
cheers. This is delicious.
Easy wine
So
month.
this is a big hit.
Can we just start wine tasting every week? Oh no, yeah,
I
it's
know.
delicious.
I have a lot.
The point is, though, that Christina now is covering local things here in Arizona in national publications.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's a
I'm
big
really I'm really excited that she gave me an outlet to write about Arizona. So I've covered everything from Garden Bar, which is one of my favorite
Yeah.
cocktail places, in the column. I also write features.
Oh, so you're. I did read that you are also. When there's a mixologist or a competition, that you're
Mm.
also there to.
Judge, yeah.
Judge,
I like
yes.
to judge.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
the
those
whole,
are fun.
the
Those
whole
are fun
cocktail
perks.
scene is a big part of the culture too, which you cover.
The guy from Sanctuary, he's also at FedOx. What's his name?
Christian.
Yes, he's amazing with
Yes,
the beard.
yes. I think he left Sanctuary, right?
Isn't he at
I'm not
FedOx
sure.
now?
Yes, that's what
He's
I
at
heard.
FedOx.
Yeah, I mean, people follow bartenders
Yes.
here. I
Oh,
mean,
he's
they-
He's a
very
great
talented.
bartender.
yes,
Yes.
and
Very
they
talented.
make their own simple syrups. They
Yes.
do. I mean, they do a lot of their own things to bring a very unique
Yes.
flavor
And
profile.
it's interesting how many of those bartenders who have that mind love to cook
Mhm.
too, because it
Well,
translates into those layers
bartenders,
of
and this has
flavor.
happened in the last 20 years, have become the new chefs. You know, we have celebrity chefs, now you have
Yes.
celebrity bartenders.
But they're
And
also
they do.
mixologists. What's the difference between a bartender and a mixologist?
Well, I'm sorry, you're
Some of the-
mixologist,
it's-
yes.
Yeah,
is
mixologist.
the proper
Some
term these
Yes.
days.
some mixologists are. I think it's become interchangeable
Yeah.
because some
Mhm.
don't like being called a mixologist.
Oh, really?
Like it's,
Okay.
you know, it's as some chefs don't like you to call them chef. You know,
Right.
some
I'm just a
like they
cook.
don't want right.
Well,
But
well,
so
Christian
it's
on his
become
Instagram says
interchangeable.
mixologist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It does
And
say
he has a
mixologist.
cocktail book out that I have, and it's a really
Oh,
great book.
really?
Yes.
Okay, I did not know he has a book out.
What is it
Yeah.
called?
Good question.
Okay.
Somebody
Can you
Google
look
it
at
right
his-
now.
Look at his Instagram.
Yeah.
Go to my Instagram and go to Christian.
Rollick.
Speaking of books, did we show the Arizona wine book yet? Did you hold that up?
Oh no, we did not.
Yeah.
Hold it
So
up for the camera.
Pavle, it's kind of neat in that book. I have a picture of Ida, his wife, standing on the ground where it's all tilled. They haven't planted anything
Right.
yet. So when I went to the tasting room, I had her
Yeah.
stand kind of in the same
Mhm.
place, just
A
to
And
before and after.
Yeah,
this was
kind of
right.
thing.
published, what year was this published?
19, I believe 19.
2019, yeah, I
Yeah,
thought so.
yeah.
It was before COVID, as I recall.
Yeah, it was COVID.
And as far as I'm aware, this was the first book to be
Right.
published on Arizona wine.
Right.
And then our friend
Janelle has
has
this
Oh, we
big
love
coffee
Janelle.
table.
Yeah,
That
this
was a couple years
beautiful
later.
coffee
Yeah.
table.
Yeah, she was on the
Yeah.
show with her big coffee book.
Yeah. It's a
and
big
Isla.
book.
Yeah.
And Isla.
Her daughter,
Her daughter,
Isla.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I know Arizona wines are already winning awards because a
Mhm.
lot of Pillsbury wines have won awards and stuff like
Well,
that.
the
But
San
A lot of
Francisco
awards.
wine.
So-
He's won
I think
awards.
Halligan was the first one to get 90s by Robert Parker.
okay, so yeah,
Yeah.
so there are Arizona wines that are getting recognition, but
Mm.
it's still so hard to find them in a lot of restaurants. So I think it's gonna take
Well,
the foodies like us almost requesting it, like asking
That's
about
a
it.
great point because
Yeah.
when I wrote
Yes.
the book,
yes.
that's one of the things we addressed. How can we do that?
Mhm.
And every winemaker said the best way to do it is ask for it when you're in a
Mhm.
restaurant.
Yeah.
You know, even if they don't cover it or they make a face, you know, you put it in their head like, wow, somebody asked for Arizona.
Exactly.
Yeah, if we were
Exactly.
selling this,
And
people
that's
would be
what you have
buying
to
it.
do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because once people realize, oh wait, there's a demand for this,
Yeah.
they'll start selling it.
Mm-hmm.
But-
They just
but-
have to know about the demand.
But what
Right.
do you do, Christina, if you have a som that's anti-Arizona wine?
Good luck.
Yeah.
I
that's-
mean, I always say, I hear this still, not as much, but I still hear, oh, I've tried Arizona wine and I don't like it.
Yeah.
Okay, there's over 100 wineries.
Exactly.
You know, you might have tried, can't have tried more than 10.
Well, right,
You know,
and
or
in the
20.
early
Good
years, the grapes were young.
Right, and we are still deciding
listen,
what works and
With
what
some of
grows.
these psalms is just, I'm sorry, willful ignorance.
Well, that's true.
Mhm, mhm.
That's fair. That's very fair.
And,
But I can
you
just say
know,
for
and
myself.
here's the thing. You see, people are comparing these wines to California wines.
Mhm.
No,
Right.
that's just as bad as comparing California wines to European wines. Of course, they're going to be different. They're
Well,
different terroir.
It's like comparing Italian
Arizona
food
has
to
its
Thai
own
food.
terroir.
And
so,
the price
I mean, it's a
point
different-
too.
yeah. So,
Sam makes a
right.
good point in the book that I included
Mhm.
where, you know, people, and I get this, you know, they don't want to pay $50 for an Arizona wine when they know this, you know, $20 California wine. But Sam says, you know, we don't have that heritage of this is my great grandfather's vineyard
Exactly.
where you can,
Mhm.
you know, this is it takes 10 years, I think, from planting your first vine to aging the wine to get your first bottle. So they're not going to be cheap. They're not bargain wines.
Well,
But
they have to make a
obviously,
profit.
as they
I mean, come
grow, you know, the price point will come
Yeah.
down. But
These
it's
are-
not a
yeah.
thing
Well,
where
they're also
winemakers
more-
are just charging more for the
Right,
heck
but it's
of it.
also more of craft, right? I mean, the
Mhm.
ones that are
A lot
you
are
know,
hand-picked.
Right.
Yeah.
The bottles that are $20 or less, those are formulated in a lab,
Right.
even if it's a family-owned company, because they want that similar profile
every
every
year.
single year.
And if you
Right.
think of that, how grapes grow, to make the wine taste the
Identical.
same every
Okay.
year is actually kind of odd.
It
You
is.
know,
not-
if you
not
think
It's
about it.
manufactured. It's
Right.
not natural.
natural.
Right.
That is
Not
just
natural.
done. That is just done for the market.
Right.
Right.
Again, people who want their wine to taste the same.
Mhm.
But this is most commercial wines are this way, generic commercial wines. And here's the thing: wine. You always hear about wine is a living thing. Well, those wines aren't living things. There's not a living microbe in those bottles.
They're
of wine.
manufactured,
Yeah.
right?
And
Yeah.
I have a
This
friend
is a
that-
living wine.
that's been
on the
show.
There's actually microbial
Right.
action, things going
Yeah.
on in this wine.
And I don't want to diss California wines, but I have a friend that's a naturopath, my friend Karen, and she won't drink anything from California because she says that the terroir it has so much pesticides, and through the years, and she says that it gives her headaches.
I think the
So she-
larger ones, but there's
Well,
there's a big
there-
sustainability.
well,
to it.
like
Listen.
Mercury.
Right.
Yeah,
It-
and I
absolutely.
just came
The
from
boutique
Paso,
wines.
and actually my next travel feature for Som Journal is going to be focusing on the sustainability
Yeah.
efforts.
So the sustainable
it's
ones are
it's
so
great.
great.
When you go to the vineyard and there's sheep
Yeah.
eating the weeds because
Yes.
that's what they're
That's
doing.
sustainable.
They're
Can you
using
name some from
sheep.
California that are sustainable?
LXV
Many.
did it. Ribbley, yeah,
Many wineries in California and here are either certified organic, even if they're
Mhm.
not certified, they may be farming organically
Mhm.
or biodynamically, which is a
Mhm.
whole other level, or there's something called SIP certified,
Yeah.
which is sustainable. And that is at least that many wineries.
Because
are
like Domaine
SIP.
Druin, I know they're very sustainable.
They're
I've been to that
sustainable.
vineyard.
Mhm.
I love Domaine
and I
Druin.
really feel like it's
Yeah,
turning that
yeah.
way. I think more and more.
So yeah, there is a lot of
wineries
there's a lot of
Mhm.
agricultural land that is ruined.
Mhm.
and this is why to get certified organic, you have to let that land lie fallow and work with it for 5 years.
Well, that's why you don't want to buy the wine that's only $10 or $15 that's mass produced, because those are the ones that
Well,
are
it
not
depends.
sustainable. A lot of
You can buy a great wine from France or Spain or Italy that's $10 that doesn't have that.
But you're not supporting local if you're getting wines from
But
there.
if you want a $10 wine, you're not going to find it in Arizona. I'm
True.
sorry.
That's true.
Mhm.
But who wants a $10 bottle of wine?
A lot of people for drinking on a daily basis. Absolutely.
What does Christina think about that?
I believe that wine is great at any price point.
Okay.
Especially if you like it, then it's a good wine.
Really.
Mhm.
I
I'm,
love
I'm
that.
like a big
Even if it's
proponent of that.
I'm not saying you don't drink a commercial made wine. If you like that, if that's your taste,
Hmm.
go ahead. I choose not to personally.
Okay, so you choose not to.
Yeah.
Okay. Hmm.
But I like to eat organic food too.
Mhm.
That's just me.
And some people don't care about that. Are you in it organic?
I try. I would like to be better than I am.
Mhm.
I'm just lazy. Basically.
Hmm.
Yeah, but you have a
Yeah.
garden, right?
I do.
You
Okay.
Yep, and I
grow
don't use
stuff.
pesticides
You
on
grow
it.
Well, you're
stuff.
Oh,
saving the
that's pretty
planet.
good.
Yeah.
Because we're here saving
Yeah.
the planet.
Well, and I'm a
One
big
show at a time.
Or as I like to
I'm
say,
a big
one wine
bee
at a time.
proponent.
One
Oh,
wine
yeah,
at a
one
time,
at a
that's
time. Could I have a little more of that? That's
You want a
really
little
good.
more of
I'm
the
really
I'm
happy,
not
you
dragging.
guys. Emil's going to be very happy that everybody likes
Well,
this one.
and
Yeah,
this
no,
is
delicious.
this is where people who are Arizona wine drinkers can think about, like, oh, you could spend $10 more on, like, you know, a $35 bottle of wine, but it's going to be so much more sustainable because it didn't have to travel hundreds or thousands of
And
miles
it's a
to
real
get here.
That's a
snapshot.
factor.
It's
Absolutely.
It's a snapshot of that year, those growing conditions, what went into it, as opposed to something that's mass produced and manipulated to taste the same every
Yeah,
day.
so it's a more interesting experience, and then you might have to spend $10 or $15 more because it's a smaller production chain, but at the end of the day, it's such a more sustainable option.
And it's better
because
for
it
your
didn't-
health
Yeah,
because it doesn't have
exactly.
all the chemicals and all the, you
Well,
know.
and anything handcrafted.
Pesticides.
I mean, there's a reason people pay so much for Maserati. There's a reason
Or
people
Porsche.
pay so much for a
Porsche,
Porsche
Porsche.
because it's handcrafted. This stuff
They need to
in
sponsor.
Arizona, right? This wine in Arizona, it's all handcrafted. It's done in small batches. It's probably 1,000 cases or less.
Right. It's
And
very
so,
delicious.
the care that goes into these, the specific choices of yeasts. I mean, these winemakers are actually going for something. They're using the terroir. They're using the taste of the grapes to craft something that's different than anything else that's out there. And I think that's where the true wine people are looking for something
Yes.
that's unique.
And most of those
Yes.
winemakers are using the natural indigenous yeast on the
Right.
grapes too. They're not
Right.
using
Like Rune
laboratory.
wine is a
Yeah.
big proponent of
Yeah.
natural
Rune wine
yeast.
is actually off the grid. I mean, the wineries are off the grid. Did you know that?
I did not. We've got to
Yeah.
get them on.
It's a beautiful
I think
tasting.
I've never been there.
Both my friend in Geyserville, Brad with Mercury.
Tell us
and
about Mercury
Sam
wine,
Bill,
'cause you're
I
with
will,
them,
But,
yes.
and Sam, they've taken their grape trucks and driven around the roads to pick up the natural yeasts
Yep.
that came from
Yep.
the area
Yep.
before fermenting. Like
Yeah,
that's
it's in the air.
yeah, and so they're not going out and buying
Right.
yeast;
Exactly.
they're
Yeah.
capturing it from the what's
It's
local.
incredible.
It's just so fascinating.
Yeah.
So tell us another minute commercial about Mercury wine.
Well, Mercury. What's interesting about Mercury is my buddy Brad. We grew up here in Arizona, and he loved wines, and he wanted to know how to make wines. But he became interested in wine before the Arizona explosion, and so he had a wine distribution here. It's called Divine Wines,
Oh yeah.
and did great.
Oh,
And
I
then
think
he
I've
started.
heard
You remember them?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Divine. He sold in all the higher end places. He imported just amazing wines.
Was it D apostrophe?
yes,
D-I-N-E?
yeah.
Okay,
yes.
yeah, I remember that.
Divine wines. Yeah,
Right.
and then he got interested in the winemaking, and he had traveled the world learning how to make wine from all these different winemakers all over the world, and so decided that he would start. And so he started with literally, I think, maybe 10 casks in Sonoma while he was still running Divine Wine here, but would go fly back and forth and check on them and do all the things, and then eventually decided to move there. but he still has deep roots in Arizona.
And
so,
Brad is completely sustainable.
yeah, he's sustainable. He does
Wines.
dry
You
farming.
need to go there.
Yeah, definitely.
He's would
Road
love
trip.
to have
Yes, road trip. Let's go.
an orchard here and vines here to be able to create a blend of Sonoma and Arizona
Right.
wine. So, just interesting. And just because he was born and raised here. So.
And let's talk about his river cruise that's coming up that we're going on.
Oh, that's gonna be
on the
fun.
Rhine.
So
you
yeah, we're
said.
going on the Rhine. It's in July of 2024. We're starting in Amsterdam,
going?
and we end in Basel, and it's 8 days, and it's this all-inclusive wine, food, beer, champagne. All the excursions are included, and it's just and he's the guest winemaker, so they invited him to come on the boat. Oh, here we go. I'm gonna pass that back. And so probably half the boat's about 300 passenger riverboat, and about half the passengers will be the Mercury Wine crew members. And
all the food is going to be
and
with
he's
the
going to be
chefs.
curating the food with the chefs on the
And
ship.
meanwhile, you have this beautiful panorama. At your...
Exactly. So, Richard was just telling me that Sam
tried this.
Pillsbury has done things like this, and there's been some
Yeah,
other.
I know,
because-
there's-
We're calling it the Love Boat.
There are a
It's
number
called the Love
Dave
Boat. 'Cause
Springs does this.
Yeah.
Sam has actually done it along with Eric Glomsky together.
I remember
They've done-
that.
They've done a couple of cruises. And,
I know Sam will tease me
people have
about,
been on them.
Sam Pillsbury
It's
teased me about
wonderful.
when you're supposed to do a taste. Oh, Kinga, you're just trying to gulp it.
And you're like, yes.
Yeah,
And what is
and
wrong
your
with
point
that?
is-
I'm with you.
Cheers.
Cheers. So this is called Sassy Redhead.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
I'm
You
not
brought-
the
you brought
redhead.
ones I've never
Give me some-
tried.
yep, there you
I'm
go.
so happy
Thank you.
because Christina and I talked earlier today, and she said, what wine should I bring? And I said, it's up to you.
Yes, I
said
tried
bring
to
some of
bring
your
ones
favorites.
that maybe or aren't easy to find. So this Sassy
Love it.
Redhead is a really fun quaffable red.
Mhm.
And if anybody's been up to Vina Zona, which is, by the way, one of my favorite two of my
Vina
favorite.
Zona, where's that at?
One in Jerome
Okay.
and one in Sedona in
Oh,
Tlaki
okay.
that
Oh,
shopping
yeah,
Oh,
center.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
And it's run by Ginger McKenzie, who is a sassy
She's
redhead.
the sassy redhead, right?
She is, but
I
she,
love this.
It's also a great, and it's made by Flying Leap, which
Wait,
is
Dominic,
one
do
of
you
my
want a glass?
favorites.
Oh, I've had this before.
Have you?
Yes.
Cool.
This is so good.
It's like, this is one I'll bring to somebody's house because
No,
I
this
think
is
a lot
lovely.
of people would like it.
Wow.
And I think it's
This is
Tempranillo.
very good.
I don't like it. I love it,
Tempranillo
and I've
based,
never
yeah.
tried this.
Again, this has got some zip to it.
Oh my gosh.
This pops the taste buds
Okay, let me
too.
tell you.
There's good
Okay,
acidity
what do
here.
you taste?
I'm falling behind.
Do my thing. You know I love it.
Drink up.
What do you taste? What do you
I don't
taste?
taste anything. I still have allergies. Spring allergies.
I taste, it's spicy to me. I taste cherry,
A little dried herb.
total dried herb.
Some definite pepper.
Pepper,
Pepper,
thank you.
pepper.
I was
I
like,
get
what
some
is that?
general, but my palate's shot right now. because
I taste a little licorice.
If you ever want to explore wines and you're up there traveling, her tasting room is great because she personally curates everything. And you'll find a lot of things you can't find any other place
Yeah, that's
because they're
great.
so small that
Yeah.
sometimes the winemaker will be the one who delivers them.
And what's her name?
Her name is Ginger McKenzie.
Mhm.
Ginger.
And her wine
Mackenzie.
tasting rooms are so charming.
Really?
Yeah, they're really the one in Tlaki is really sunny,
Oh, I bet.
but
Yeah.
it's like a personality too. She's quirky too. So
Oh,
there's
I
all
love
these.
that.
Yeah, they're great. You can just spend an afternoon in either of them, and they're small.
Okay, what does a bottle like this cost
I
retail?
think this is 42-ish.
So delicious.
So
Mhm.
around
Really
It's
good.
so delicious. I love
Oh,
it.
it's very good. I'm pretty sure I had this at a place in Prescott. I can't remember the place that it was, but I
That would make
definitely
sense.
remember.
Mhm.
And they support local wineries and that. Kind
I
of
love
thing,
Prescott and talk about a burgeoning food
Oh.
and cocktail scene too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Their cocktail
I
scene.
love it.
They have like
Chet,
2 speakeasy
what did you think of this one?
style.
I've still been, sipping it, trying to decide what word I would give it.
Mhm.
I really like it though.
Mm.
Very delicious.
It's definitely got
well,
a
that-
Tempranillo. I can taste the Tempranillo.
It's
It has a
medium bodied.
specific- Yeah.
I
Nice
love the
structure to
zippy
it.
acidity in
Mhm.
this wine too.
Yeah.
So it really is again it makes the taste buds pop.
But I think it's medium tannins, right?
Oh yeah, it's not.
I wonder if because we have such
Mm.
alkaline soil in Arizona, if that drives a more acidic grape?
Actually, they have issues with acidity in Arizona. A lot of wines need to be acidulated.
Really?
Yes. So
Interesting.
that is depending on where you are, but that is an issue here. That's not uncommon.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's very
know that?
interesting.
No.
Yeah. I was talking to a winemaker the other day about that.
Is there the
So does
tiny
that mean
sip to
that
the-
those grapes
I'm
aren't
sorry?
going to be?
It means you have to
tiny
acidulate. You have
But
to
I mean,
add acid.
as a wine grower, would you say, well, I'm
Tiny.
going to grow more wines that
Please.
have good acidity without doing that?
Well, it's interesting because, especially because we're at altitude, and you have the diurnal swing, you think that one of the aspects of a diurnal
Right.
swing, that you have this huge temperature gap, is that the lower temperatures at night help retain acidity.
Right.
Mhm.
So I was surprised to hear that they have some issues.
Is it in certain areas?
I think so, but it seems to be prevalent down south.
Can I tell you,
Yeah, okay.
if I was a bar owner, restaurant owner, I'd only have Arizona wines, Arizona everything,
Yeah.
because this is like incredible. Why would you?
This would go very well with steak for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it has
I
enough
feel like-
structure that it would
Mhm.
pork roast or, I mean, I think it's,
Anything
like I said, this would
spicy.
be, if I was bringing a red to somebody's house, this kind of style to introduce them, or like Grenache, I think we do nice Grenache.
Well, that's why it's really
reality-
fun to bring something with the name of this. What it's sassy.
Sassy redhead, and you'll
Sassy
never
redhead.
forget
Redhead.
it,
No,
right?
You won't
Yeah.
forget
It's
it.
got a great
Sassy
Well,
label. I mean,
Yeah,
for me,
isn't
it
the
was
label
it was the
great?
label. As soon as I saw the label, I was like, oh yeah, I've had this before.
Do you guys know any redheads? We have to definitely bring this,
yeah.
this bottle
I don't think
to.
I
But this-
know any.
Our
Then
friends
we
that
should
are
have had
redheads.
this one for St. Patty's Day.
Bottom line is that wines in Arizona now, as opposed to 30 years ago, are for the most, was just a judge again in the Arizona Governor's Cup wine competition of all these.
And
Congrats.
Pelican just took top
Congrats.
honors,
Yes, he
right?
did.
So once again,
And
Richard
so,
Betts,
there
the
was-
judge.
we were tasting hundreds of wines that day.
Were you
and-
spitting or drinking?
Spitting, of course.
Yeah, you
when
can't
you're
drink that much.
judging, you spit.
Yeah.
It's not an easy thing to
Does
do. trust me.
anybody
But
ever
anyway, my
drink
point is that if all the 24 judges were
We
there,
would.
the consensus was, every year we get more wine and the quality
Just
in
keeps-
general just keeps
coming
going
up.
up.
Yep.
That is the reality.
So who won that?
So,
Who did you vote for?
Callaghan won Best of Show.
Okay,
Which
that's
is
what I
what
want
I'm
to
saying,
hear
in
about.
different categories that were.
Okay, so he won Best of
his
Show.
Mourvedre that they actually that year, he lost vineyard to hail, so he bought that from what's the I can't remember the name of the vineyard. It came from another vineyard though.
Well, I have a good idea. Let's do a whole other show
Oh yeah.
about who won that.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
You'll
That's
have to
great.
be here, and
But
we'll.
here, I have one more question.
We'll
What
taste those
time's-
wines.
how are we doing on time?
Dominic,
We still have
We got about 13 minutes.
13, yeah.
13
Yeah.
minutes.
There's
Christina.
a specific description word. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Richard. But there's a specific description word I'm trying to think of for this one, for the sassy redhead, but I can't get it. And it's
What about
been
sassy?
put on the top.
I knew you were
mean,
going to say that.
All right,
You know,
are you
it's on my
looking at
tongue.
more like what's on your tongue, or what more on the nose?
What about spicy?
I'm on the nose, but it also I can taste it too. It is like almost like
Tobacco.
it almost reminds me of like
No.
a Caribbean cocktail. I don't know how to describe it. Like a
Like a Mai Tai?
I
kind of
yes,
thing?
yes.
So there's some fruit aspect.
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
some
fruity
definitely some-
aspect. But I can't pin
raspberry. I taste some raspberry.
which fruit it is.
Well, what's interesting is that the nose is so sweet,
It is.
but the palate when it hits your
It's
tongue,
a-
there's no sugar whatsoever, and
Right.
that's what's really.
And
and
you
that's
know-
what's really nice because it has that pungent, distinctive,
Mhm.
spicy.
To me, it's like I said, quaffable, because I think it has things that would appeal to
Okay,
you know.
can you dumb it down? What does quaffable mean?
drinkable,
Oh.
easy to drink.
I'm learning a
Easy.
word.
All
I'm
right.
admitting.
All
I'm
right.
admitting I didn't
Thanks.
know
Now
that
she's
word.
gonna
No.
say quaffable in every sentence for the next 3 months.
I woke up this morning, I was quaffable. My
This bottle
coffee
was
this
really
morning was
quaffable.
quaffable. Right?
What's funny about it is
Get
it's
down,
true.
get quaffable. That's crazy.
And Flying Leaf has a distillery too, and
Yes, they do.
they have some
Ah.
great
Yeah,
spirits.
that's the other
Actually, we
thing.
have a lot of great spirits.
There's really good spirits.
Village
they
of
make,
Elgin
yeah.
has won
Yeah.
Mhm.
international awards for their
Tucson has making some great whiskey. What's that place down there making really
Delbach.
good? Huh?
Delbach.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
there's
Wonderful.
vodka up in Flagstaff.
Yeah.
There's
Mhm.
all sorts of
Gins
So how do
Grand
you,
Canyon.
So with
Yeah.
the mixology judging that, who do you find are like some of the best mixologists in Arizona?
Well, I love those because I am constantly like being introduced to somebody I'd never heard of, and
I love that.
and then I'll go and visit them at their place because I'm
love
like,
that.
where did this little girl come from? And, you know, she just
Yes.
or where's this shy guy? Which I always admire anybody who participates in that.
What's the name of that bar that you go downstairs in that Undertow?
Yes.
They still open?
Except Undertow moved to Century Grand,
Yeah.
and that's one of my favorites actually.
I love Undertow.
They still have the thing with you're like in a rail car, right?
Yes, so
who-
it's
who's the
this
girl that
platform
started
18.
that mixologist? What's her name?
Well,
Oh, shoot.
Jason Asher and Kaylee Asher are
Okay.
the owners, along with he has partners, Rich and Matt. So they started Undertow in SIP.
Love it.
So they've moved it over to Century Grand right next door. So now that there's 3 cocktail bars in there,
It's incredible.
and they're all totally different. One is a train, like a
Chet, have you been there?
vintage
Of course.
luxury train.
Right.
Okay.
One is Undertow,
I love
and I
Undertow.
actually like the move because the seats are more comfortable.
Yes,
Oh, really?
way
Yeah,
more.
the original location was very cramped.
Tight, yeah.
Too
Yeah.
But
small.
there's now another bar in there that's still really great. I think I forget what it's called. Something
Gray
below.
Hen.
Okay.
Oh, 36 Below
Yeah.
took Undertow. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I actually went recently, and I was really impressed with.
Yeah, so it's still a gray bar. It's just not Undertow anymore. But
It's
the
actually feels bigger too.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah.
it's funny how they took the same space in it.
It's really incredible when somebody it's an art to mix those, you know, what am I going to put in this next? And it's
Or
so
just
beautiful
how
the way
one
they present
little,
it.
drop of saline will change the whole.
Or what do you
drink.
call that when they burn that? What do they do?
Oh, the smoke, like
yes,
they have
Sure,
the smoke.
the
yeah.
smoke.
I think this one would also go really well with a creamy cheese.
Yes.
That's what I taste. I taste smoke.
Yes.
Yeah.
Smoky.
This is.
It's smoky.
Well,
Yeah, this would be great.
Speaking of
with
the
cream
mixologist,
cheese.
when my wife and I were in Vancouver last week, and we went to a restaurant, and we're just chatting up the bartender, and she's like, "Well, I've just come up with this drink, and I can't think of a name. Do you guys want to try it?" And we're like, "Sure." And so she makes it, and then she takes absinthe and she sprays
Yep.
absinthe
Oh,
over
just
the
to
top
get that-
just to give it that licorice.
Yeah.
And I had never experienced that
Mm.
kind of
Yeah.
mixology,
Yeah,
and I just
yeah.
thought, wow, well, that's a really interesting way to add a different flavor. But that only hit our nose.
But it
didn't
kind
hit-
of like whets your appetite.
Oh
for
yeah,
the
and
rest
then
of the
I
weekend.
completely tasted the licorice in the drink,
Oh yeah.
but there wasn't
Yeah,
that much
isn't
in there.
that's that kind of brilliance, you know,
Mhm.
that I'm always like,
And that's what-
how did they think of
Right,
that?
That's what I was
right.
thinking. That was the word I was thinking about. Brilliance.
Mm.
Because really, to create these concoctions and mixology, it's so unique.
Right.
It is an art.
It's an
Oh,
art.
it
It's
is,
such an art.
absolutely.
It's such an
Just
art.
like
Yeah,
you said.
Yeah.
I wrote about cocktails before I wrote about wine. Like to
Really?
me, wine is so much more intimidating, and
Yeah.
because
Not so
Really?
much anymore, right?
because you know one region has all this info, but cocktails now with all the spirits being made.
Now you're getting
I
checked.
mean,
Well,
That's
no, that's
an
where my
That's not
preference
that-
is. I love going to a really
Can I-
good
can
wine
I
bar
interject
or
here while we
cocktail
still
bar.
have time? Very important things I want Christina to talk about, please.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that is how people are, the stuff that you're writing on a regular basis, a weekly and monthly basis, that people can keep up with what's going on.
How do they
Well,
find you?
I did bring a taste of AZ, which is free.
Let's hold that.
Sign
That
up,
one's free.
yeah, on their website, and it's all local. So that we have a
And
few
you-
wryers.
Right.
We all write regularly.
A taste of
for it.
AZ.
Mhm.
Okay.
And that's going to keep
And then-
you up on
That is
restaurants,
a
Yeah.
beautiful.
news,
Uh-oh.
cocktail
I'm
news,
grabbing this.
And
wine
it's
news.
free,
Yeah.
again, I want to say. So all you have to do is sign up, and it'll come to your house. And everything.
Phoenix Cooks.
Phoenix
And then-
Cooks, and it's
Well, that's a cookbook.
almost sold out. So
But that's what I love.
Think
Yeah,
in the
I'm
next-
I went to
asking
the
about
Phoenix
things
Cook.
that
Yeah.
people can read
Phoenix
that she
Cooks.
writes on a regular basis, weekly,
Like
monthly,
blogs.
that you
So,
keep
I-
keeps you up to what's
and
happening.
I
Yes.
do have a
Yeah.
website, right
Check
on
here.
ruby.com,
Can you look at this?
WRITEONRUBE.com.
Mhm.
I just started because I just won a best food website from Arizona Foothills, so now I'm like, I gotta start keeping up
Yeah.
on
I
that.
love that.
Right
I
on
love
Ruby
that.
was one of your first columns, was it not?
Yeah, so when I wrote for the Arizona Wine Magazine for 7 years, and then they sold it, and that's when I started
Yes.
my website. So, and that's when it's funny how a website made everything. I think
So
kind of
right
love.
on Ruby, is that weekly now?
Yeah, I update. I actually do a Ruby Tuesdays where
Ruby Tuesday, perfect.
where I just photo recap all the places I've been that
Mhm.
week because I used to write about them, but sometimes I'll hit 8
Yeah.
places. So now it's just photos and.
But
a
what
little
about your
blurb.
Instagram or Facebook? Can we
And
find that there
Instagram is
too?
all that stuff is right on Ruby. Twitter.
Yeah.
And so
Instagram.
what's the background of Right on Ruby?
That's a good question.
It's looking back, I would have just used my name, but it was back in AOL, and
Oh,
I had
yeah, you had
RUBEE was
yeah,
my.
yeah, all right.
And then when I wrote on the food board, it was Ruby. Then when I went on Twitter, it was Ruby. And then
So it's kind of your
Yeah.
brand.
That's
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
good
It
because
is
you
a
don't want
brand.
someone to like
Okay.
find your home.
yeah.
Yeah.
Except with Instagram, all that info's out there. It's not like you can be private.
But that's interesting though, and I think it's important that
Uh,
you are
Richard.
writing on a regular basis, so that people can keep up with
Right.
kind of what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
This week,
I
this
love
month,
Yeah, and
what's
if-
coming up.
Right. If you look at Instagram,
So we have 5
that's
minutes,
where
but
I
Chet had a
document.
question.
Yes.
Chet,
Talk
what was your question?
booze.
What?
Cocktails.
You have a question.
A long time ago, you had a question.
Oh, I was just making the point that I think it's way more fun to go out to a really nice cocktail bar or a really great wine tasting room rather than people that just go out to the local bar and have 5, gin and tonics and
Because
just
you want to
don't-
explore a little
Yeah,
bit.
exactly. It's way more fun to experience the flavors and the true passion projects that some of these winemakers or mixologists create for people. It's a totally different experience than just drinking to get drunk.
Mhm.
And I
Because
feel
it's
bad for the
art.
people that can't see the difference. It's so much more fun to go out and experience the intricacies of the wine or of the mixologist.
I love what
And-
you're saying. You're better off buying 2 drinks at $25 a drink.
Yeah,
And
and then
really
getting
think
you're learning
4 drinks that are $8.
Well, and that's
each.
how I got
Exactly.
started in cocktail writing, was
Oh.
a bartender. I remember asking him, we were going to New York and I'd never had a Manhattan. And he's like, hold on. And he went back and printed, this is back in the 90s, a thing on bitters. And then he brought out all these bitters he had been making me. And then he told me, when you go to New York, you don't have to order the expensive whiskey for Manhattan. I always remember he said Old Overholt Rye, which is
Classic.
classic. But so that bartender was the one who really got me into cocktails.
Get you excited about it.
So along this, that's what I did, and that's where I got into it.
Well, it's kind of like you.
So
can-
we already talked about Undertow and their
And Grey Hen too. I forgot
Yeah.
to talk about Grey
Yeah,
Hen.
so what are some of your other favorite cocktail bars in Arizona?
I
I love Little
Question.
Rituals.
Oh, I love Little
Oh, you
Rituals.
cheated.
Oh, I
Cheers
love
to
that
Cheers
response.
to that. That's like what that'd probably be like one of my
She needs more
top
wine.
5
Yes, she
favorites.
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
the one.
I love the atmosphere. Oh, and they have a new chef.
Mm.
So you guys all should run there because now you can have dinner. It used to be kind of grazing, but full dinner you can get great steaks. He serves these
I love that place.
sweet
Tell everyone-
buns with a chartreuse butter.
Nice.
Ooh.
I
That's
love
like
that.
crazy.
Where is it located?
It is downtown, and it's in the Marriott. I forget one of the
Okay,
like
yeah,
smaller
Yeah, it's right by the
Courtyard,
Sun
Marriott
Stadium,
Courtyard.
yeah.
Chet, how did
Yeah.
you know about my favorite place?
Well, it's actually right next to one of my other favorite.
Oh, Bitter and
Yeah.
Twisted. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Took
yeah.
the words right out of my mouth.
So,
Yeah.
any new restaurants exciting coming up that you are aware of?
I just went to Anello. Has anybody been there?
Oh my
Okay,
gosh.
we're big
I had the
fans.
best
We're
2
big
dinners
fans.
of my life.
Big fans.
The best
I'm
2
a
dinners.
huge
Like
fan.
if somebody has all the money in the world, and you're like, okay, what should I give them? What should I get them for their birthday? It's a dinner.
I love that you said
I
that.
can't pronounce it. Anello.
Anello.
I pronounce it Anello,
Like
but it's
like
Anello.
the H is a little soft. That's
Yeah,
I know.
yeah.
My husband's Mexican, so he taught
it's
me how
unreal.
to say it.
It's the best experience of my life in a meal,
hmm
and you
But
can't.
he does a la carte now, so it makes it
Really?
more affordable.
Yeah, they do.
Well, thank you, because that dinner was like about $1,200 the last one. I'm like, oh, really?
Well, because back then you could do 3 course or
Yeah.
eight course, and the 8 course is so good.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
what I love
That's
about
right.
them, I actually
So
did a
good.
Somm Journal story on them.
I saw it.
The
incredible.
wines they have are
No, the wine
they
program
get
is
the wine
incredible.
program's fantastic.
I asked Richard, I said, there's somebody I have to take out to dinner for their birthday. I said, thank
I
you.
told you.
They have all the money in the world,
Yeah.
billionaire status. What should I, where can I take them? And he said, bingo.
But now you know you can do a la carte, so it'll be.
Excellent.
So what would a dinner for 2 be now a la carte?
I don't know. We went to like a special scholarship fundraiser.
Mhm.
The chef owner is really great about giving back
Say
to
his
the
name.
community. Ivan Jacobo.
Yeah.
So Ivan,
And the Somm,
Ryan Ansel.
Ryan Ansel.
Yeah.
Ryan Ansel. He's
Yeah.
so great. He'll bring up the dinner I treated my friend to it's just kind of a blind tasting, and he'll bring out a bottle of wine. He'll be like, this is like a bottle that's like $3,000, and you get that much wine of it. But that's incredible.
When's the next
Like,
time you get
wow.
a 3,000?
Yeah,
Right. That's
exactly.
exactly
All right, we
what
got
it
about
is.
So we have
30
1 minute.
seconds. No, 30
We have 1
seconds. So
minute.
in the green room, .green. Right on Ruby.
Ruby.com.
If people want to get a hold of you, Richard, what's your handle? Are you
Richard
hiding
Betts.
from the social media?
He's Richard Betts. And then Deep Chetty Music, and Deep Chetty has a music DJ festival thing on the 30th at Dark Star. What's it called?
We don't need to promote that.
Quest for Booty.
It's already sold
Quest
out.
for
You
Booty.
can't go if you want.
You can't go. It's Quest for Booty. On
And-
Thursday, March
yes.
30th.
Yeah, go
It's
drink
more
wine. Go drink
fun.
Arizona wines.
That's right.
That's
It's
the
Arizona
message
Wine
of this
Month.
show.
Save the planet by drinking Arizona wines.
One wine at a
We
time.
need you
One
back.
wine
You're
at a
amazing.
time. Thanks for having me,
You
you
need to
guys.
be a regular.
This was a lot of
Oh my
fun.
God, so much fun. Thank you so